Hello, this is KeefCooks. I'm Keith, and today I'm going to do something really yummy. Like always, really. I'm going to make barbecued, fall off the bone ribs with Hasselback potatoes and coleslaw. So you probably associate barbecue stuff with barbecue stuff, but as you may know, my barbecue is the world's smallest. It's about this big. But you can do barbecue style things in the oven, and it takes a lot of time, but it really is worth it. So let's get going. If you enjoy this video, give it a like, share, subscribe, become a patron, etc. And without further ado, let's do it. Job number one is to make up a rub. So I've got half a cup of light brown sugar, like demerara sugar, 2 teaspoons of smoked paprika, 1 teaspoon of salt, and a half teaspoon each of ground black pepper, onion powder and garlic powder. So stick those in a jar and give them a good old shake. I just use this monster funnel because I can't find the little one. The sugar. And we'll probably use about half of that, but don't worry, you can keep the rest if you remember to label it so that you don't think it's tamarind paste, okay? Here's my ribs. This looks like it's been a whole thing that's been cut in half. So it's about ½ kilo, and that's perfect for me and Mrs. KeefCooks. There is this sort of membrane inside, and what you want to try and do is remove it. So basically, you're better off with a blunt knife rather than a sharp one, because you don't want to cut it. You want to just work the knife underneath the membrane. And then once you've got enough off, you can just grab a hold of it and pull it, oh, like that. Yay, baby! Magic. Alright, so get a bit of aluminium foil that's big enough to wrap it. I've got a scraggy end. I suppose I can fit that in, yeah. Alright, and then rub in the rub. Rub-a-dub-dub. And actually be more generous on the outside, because that's where most of the meat is. Now you want your oven preheating to 150 Celsius for a fan oven, convection oven that's 170 for a conventional one, and that is gas 3. And then, well, just wrap the meat. And I would say 2.5 hours in the oven for this, but because this is such a tiny rack, I think I'm going to take a look after 1.5 hours. Just, well, it might be done, you never know. So in we go. Did you notice my joke? Eggs, eggplant. I'm going to make some Hasselback potatoes because I think they'll go really well with the ribs, and I haven't actually done these on a video before. But Wikipedia is very specific about these, their origins. They were invented in 1953 by Leif Ellison, a trainee chef at the Hasselbacken restaurant in Stockholm, in Sweden. What you need is a couple of potatoes, and just cut the eyes out. Basically, I'm not peeling them, because the skin goes kind of crispy and it's a nice contrast with the fluffy, creamy interior. Now, if you don't know what a Hasselback potato is, it's like a comb. You actually thinly slice the potato, but not all the way through. So I've got 2 wooden spoons to act as my limiters, if you like, and so then I just cut through, not all the way down to the spoon there, because the potatoes are tapering, but from about here I can do that. Now I'm just going to cover the outside with butter. Or, you know, if you don't like butter, you can use olive oil. So now I'll pop these in the oven with the ribs. I'll give them 30 minutes, then I'll baste them with more butter. Now you need some Smoky BBQ Sauce, and I know you'll kill me if I use that, so I'm going to make my own, just riffing basically, so I'll try and work out the quantities later. There's that much tomato passata, that's probably about a cup. Dark brown sugar. It's kind of like muscovado, but it doesn't say so on the label. But I think, you know, this will caramelise beautifully and give it rich, dark, sticky texture. And some cider vinegar, probably about half a cup. And then I've got this hickory smoke powder, which I've had since, I've probably had it about 10 years. Still smells of smoke though, so that's good. I'll whack a good teaspoon of that in there. Make it to a teaspoon of English mustard powder, or, you know, made up mustard, if you like, whatever. Imagine that's Worcestershire sauce, Leon Perrins, but I'm not allowed to use that here in Yorkshire because this is made in Sheffield and this is the national condiment, and there are people who will kill you if you say it's like Worcester sauce, but it is. Okay, that's all mixed up nice and smooth. I'm going to add a teaspoon of minced garlic, a bit of a taste. That's very interesting. It's also a bit too runny, so I'm going to just heat that on the stove and reduce it a bit to make it thicker. So that's the BBQ sauce thickened. Now we set that aside until we need it. Now, bonus recipe, I'm going to make some coleslaw. So I've got a big carrot, I've got the same, well, I will have the same weight of white cabbage and a small onion and some mayonnaise. Now, I feel a bit churlish because I just poo-pooed the Hellmann's barbecue sauce out of a bottle, but I'm going to use Hellmann's ready-made mayonnaise. So what we do is we shred, well, take out the grotty outer leaves and just shred your cabbage. Then you want to top and tail and peel and shred the onion as well. And finally, we grate the carrot. Oh, alright, stop going on about it, I'll make my own mayo. Teaspoon of Dijon mustard. Tablespoon of cider vinegar, or white wine vinegar, if you like. Half teaspoon of salt. Half teaspoon of white pepper. The juice of 1 egg. And then the magical thing. This is a quick method that might horrify you if you're used to more traditional ways of making mayonnaise. So that's a load of, well, extra virgin rapeseed oil, or you can use olive oil obviously, and that's sunflower oil. We just let those settle for a minute or two. And now we do the magic. So just place your blender over the egg and then whiz it. And when it starts to emulsify, bring the blender up and get all the rest of the oil incorporated. And if that isn't magic, I don't know what is. Okay, I'm glad you persuaded me. That is fantastic. So to finish the coleslaw, just mix together the cabbage and the carrot and the onion, and then some of your fantastic homemade mayonnaise. if you're watching the calories, oh, there we are. You might want to mix this 50-50 with yoghurt. I just had a little taste of that, and it does need a bit of salt and pepper. So about a half teaspoon of each, and white pepper. And the Hasselback potatoes have had their 30 minutes, so I'm just going to baste them with some more butter. And because it's now started to open up a bit, we'll get some of that butter will go down between the slices and be wonderful. And that can go back in for another half hour. And maybe I'll baste it again then. Okay, those spuds have had actually 40 minutes for their second bit. So we'll get them out and check them. And I'm also going to check the meat, because that's had over an hour and a half. Alright, these feel like they could do with more time, maybe another half hour. But now I've got them opened up, so I'll put a lot more butter in there. Let's have a look at the meat. Well, the fork's going through pretty easily, but I reckon another half hour for that wouldn't go amiss. And actually, I think I'll turn the oven up a few degrees. I'd say 10 degrees. This look, yeah, that's nice. Fork goes in easy, and fork goes in that easy as well. So now I need to glaze this with the BBQ sauce that I made ages ago. And now I've got the grill on in the oven, the broiler, and I'm going to glaze the ribs and stick it under there for a few minutes, and then glaze it again and stick it under there for a few minutes more, and so on until we get a nice shiny sticky surface of yumness. And now it's taste test time with Mrs. KeefCooks. Right.
Yeah.
What?
Have we got 17 guests? We're just lurking, waiting to leave.
This is
out.
your dinner.
See this? That's his fault. Oh my goodness, well that's falling off the bone, isn't it?
Ah, well that's meant to be.
I'm going to just stand here and admire, I think.
Don't want any.
Right. Bit of coleslaw. Actually.
Do it.
I like that dressing. It's really rich and fruity. Almost caramelised.
The glaze, the barbecue sauce. Yeah, it's meant to be caramelised. But
So did you make your own barbecue sauce?
yeah, babe.
I figured.
And my own mayonnaise. Did?
Really?
Yeah.
He used to. All the time. I love his mayonnaise. I liked it too much. You have to keep making more. No, it's a good combination, isn't it?
Yeah. It's all perfect.
Of course it is, darling.
Wonderful. Do it. Okay. Thanks for watching. And see you next time.